Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at a pair of noise-canceling headphones from Bose. These are the NC-700, and they are very similar to the QC-35s that I'm sure you've seen out there. But there are a couple of differences as well, so we're going to be taking a look at some of the unique features of this device, how it compares to the QC-35s, and I'll also give you my impressions of its overall sound quality in this review. Now, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that these came in free of charge through the Amazon Vine program. However, all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what these new headphones are all about. Now, before we jump into the review of the headphones, I do want to offer a word of caution about doing business with Bose over the long term. A couple of years ago, I bought these QC-35 headphones at full price, and over the last couple of months, the headphones have stopped turning off. I'll flick the switch to the off position, and they will turn themselves right back on again. This is a very widespread problem. A lot of people who own these headphones are experiencing these issues after the warranty period ends, and Bose is doing nothing about it other than to offer you a coupon to buy a refurbished pair of headphones. They don't even want to repair the ones that are out in the field currently. That is not a good way to treat customers, especially with a premium product like this. If it was a one-off issue that just cropped up after the warranty ended, I'd be able to forgive that. But given how many people are having problems with these and the fact that the company just doesn't seem to care about it, has me really cautious here about recommending any Bose products to anyone. So if you are in the market for these things, just keep that in mind as we go through this review, because I am concerned over their ability to support their products, even if they have a widespread engineering issue with them. That warning aside, let's get into it now and see what these headphones are all about. These are a very comfortable pair of headphones. In fact, I find them more comfortable than the QC-35s. I just wore these on a trip where I had a 4-hour flight in both directions, and it was a very, very comfortable feeling to have these on my ears the whole time. These are very soft cushions here. It's a synthetic leather. It's got a very soft, almost suede-like feel to it, but it is not made out of real leather. It's got a nice stainless steel headband with a lot of padding here on the top. You can adjust the ear cups here just by sliding them up and down like so. And altogether, it was a very comfortable experience. Like the QC-35s, they do have a rather large carrying case, and these do not fold up like the QC-35s do. So when you put them in the case here, you can kind of get a feel for how big this thing will be in your bag. So the case itself is actually thinner than the QC-35 case that I have down here. But as you can see, it is still pretty bulky to carry around with you there. So that was my only gripe with these, is that they are just a lot to carry in a bag because it will take up a lot of space in that bag. Now you have a couple of different options for audio on these. You can have them connect via Bluetooth, of course. You can pair, I believe, up to 8 devices with it, and you can actually use 2 devices simultaneously with the headphones. In addition to the Bluetooth option, you have a jack here for headphones. So if you want to connect up to an airplane system or whatever, or just connect up your phone with headphones for some lossless audio, you can plug in this connector into the bottom here and then connect the full-size headphone jack into your headphones. This is one of those smaller jacks, and these are not hard to find, but just be aware if you wanted to get a separate cable, you'll need to get one end with the traditional sized headphone jack and another with the smaller jack there. And you also get a USB-C to USB-A charging cable in the box, but just note that there is no AC adapter in the box to charge it. Now these have a few features that are lacking on the QC-35s. One is that they have a greater control over the amount of noise cancellation. You have 10 different steps of cancellation that you can apply. So by default, it'll come on at 10, but you can have it step down to varying degrees of cancellation depending on what your preferences are. So that's a nice little extra with these. The QC-35s would have a midpoint, a high point, and off. Again, these have 10 different levels that you can have them do. You also have, in place of buttons, a capacitive sensor here on the right ear cup for doing some controls, and I'll show you those in a few minutes when we take a look at the app. You also, on these, have the ability to use a wake word with the Amazon A word or the Google Assistant or Siri. So you can just say, the name of your assistant and have that assistant execute things. And as you'll see in a few minutes, even on the iPhone, you can get access to non-Apple assistants without having to load up apps. It just works through the app's background tasks. So that was a pretty neat feature, and I'll demo that in a minute as well. And those are really the big differences here on these versus the QC-35s. As for sound quality, these sounded more neutral than the QC-35s did. They both have a good amount of bass to them, but I found the bass to be deeper on these. So if you're listening to music and you really like that punchy bass, I think the QC-35s are a little better for that. Movies especially, I think, sounded a little better out of these than they did out of the movies I was watching on my last flight. The bass is there. It doesn't sound distorted or anything, but it just doesn't have that punch. And I often watch a lot of movies and TV shows on flights, and that was something that I noticed, that these didn't sound as punchy with the bass as the QC-35s did. But if you like a more neutral sounding headphone, I think you'll like these. Music sounds great out of these. Everything sounds good, but I think it's a matter of what your preferences are. Now, the overall noise cancellation on these is exceptional, but the QC-35s also do an exceptional job of noise cancellation. I really didn't detect much of a difference between the two. So if you are looking for comfort on a flight insofar as all the background noise is concerned, both will do a very good job with that. The 700s here do have an edge because you can more finely adjust the amount of cancellation that you get, and that might be useful in certain circumstances where you might want to talk to people next to you but still drown out some of that jet engine noise. So these do offer more flexibility and better comfort, but the overall cancellation effect here is about the same as before. Now, of course, you're pairing these with your phone, and if you happen to get a phone call while you've got them on, you can use the microphone built in here to have a conversation. And if you're curious as to what these sound like, here you go. This is the microphone feeding audio back to my phone via Bluetooth. So the audio is not bad. You're not going to use this to make your podcast or something, but it certainly is good enough for a phone call. There is some noise cancellation built into the microphone itself. So if you are in a noisier environment, it's not going to drown out the background all that well, but it will be good enough that the person on the other side can hear what you're saying. One thing that you definitely want to do, though, is adjust the setting of the microphone loopback so you can hear yourself talking. I found the default setting on these to be a little bit too low, and I sounded very muffled to myself. So setting that to high makes it a lot more natural to talk on these because you can actually hear what you're saying. These things really drown out so much sound, it's hard to hear your own voice while you're talking. So turning that setting to the high level will really help with that. And speaking of settings, let's jump into the app now and see how to configure everything. Now, you can configure some of your headphone settings with your phone. This is the Bose Music app that's on Android and iOS. And when you pair it up with your headphones, it'll detect them when you load the app up. You can see I've got 12 hours and 26 minutes of battery life remaining, and I haven't yet actually charged these things since I got them. So I took 2 4-hour flights and have used it off and on a little bit around the house here as well. This update has been installing for quite a while. I did update the headphones when I first set up everything before I left on my trip, but it looks like there's another firmware update that is coming down to them right now. You'll notice here at the bottom that you can control the level of noise cancellation from the app directly. And you can see you've got 10 different settings here, and each will reduce the noise cancellation level slightly until you get to 0, where it will be off completely. 10, again, is the default. Now, if you click on these little periods next to the noise cancellation setting, you can set up favorites. So you can see right now it's got 10, 5, and 0. And what will happen here is that every time I push the button on the left-hand side of the headphones, it will jump into one of those settings. So right now it is set to 10. If I push the button, it will go down to 5. And then if I push it again, it will go down to 0. And if I push it a third time, it will go back up to 10. So right now, that's what I have it set to. But of course, you can set these to be anything that you want. If you hold down the button, it will turn off the noise cancellation completely. You got a couple of other things that you can do in here. One is set your sources. So right now I just have one device paired up with the headphones, but you can manage the 8 that you can pair with it, and you can choose which 2 can send audio to the headphones simultaneously. There's also Bose AR, which I played around with a little bit. This, I believe, works on the QC-35 2s as well. And what this will do is give you a couple of different scenarios where you can listen to audio based on the position of your head. So if you hear something that's coming from behind you, if you turn around, it will then be in front. It's kind of a fun little thing. It wasn't as compelling as I thought it would be, but if you want to play around with some of the spatial audio, that's something that you might find intriguing. There are some services that use this Bose AR, so if you're out doing some touristy stuff, you can actually have the headphones, your phone, kind of work together to tell you what you might be looking at in a particular location. So that might be something useful if you do a lot of traveling. In the settings section here with the gear icon, you can name your device, you can redo the product tour, you can manage the Bluetooth connections, and then the voice assistant section is where you can pair up different compatible services. So I have mine right now paired with the Amazon A word. So I have a smart bulb installed in that light over there, and of course it works with the Amazon A word. And what I'm going to do now is put on the headphones and issue an A word command to the headphones here and have them turn the light bulb on. Now these headphones are paired up with my phone, and this of course is an Apple phone, which doesn't typically like to play well with other voice assistants, but what happens here is that the Bose app in the background interacts with the Amazon API, and you're able to issue commands directly without having to have something loaded in the foreground. So let me put these things on here, and I'm going to say, turn on the color light bulb. And there you go. We've got the light here turning on with a command that went through my iPhone without having to invoke something else first. And I thought that was a pretty neat feature of these. Again, it works with the Google Assistant and with Siri. You can only have it work with one of them at a time, but it does seem to do pretty well with that. The trigger word has to be uttered by itself. You can't utter the trigger word and then the command immediately after that. You have to wait for it to hear it and then activate. But still, it seems to be working quite well, and the fact that it works this seamlessly with another manufacturer's voice command on an iPhone, I thought was something unique and interesting to me, so that was good. Now, if you don't want it to be always listening, you can make use of the capacitive area here on the right ear cup to turn it off. So what you do is hold down your finger here until you hear the headphones respond with the command that the trigger word is shutting down. After that, you can push this button here to activate the assistant manually. So that's one thing that you can do instead. What I'm finding here with the voice assistants is that it's channeling all of the assistant audio through the headphones. So if I ask it what the weather's going to be like tomorrow or what the traffic is looking like, I'll hear all of that through the headphones, and I thought that was really well executed here. What's not so well executed, though, is the placement of the trigger word button. I am constantly hitting this button when I take the headphones off my head, because where my right hand goes to grab the headphones is right where this button is, and I'm always pushing it. Another thing that's happening is that this capacitive sensor is also very sensitive, so I'm constantly turning the voice assistant on and off inadvertently because my thumb is just resting on this as I'm handling the headphones. So some things aren't so elegantly executed here, but again, I do think it's pretty neat that it does seem to work quite well with an iPhone using another company's voice assistant. And we got a few other things to take a look at here on the app. First is the shortcut option, and this basically determines what happens when you hold down the right-hand side of the headphones. As I mentioned, I was very annoyed over that enable disable of the wake word. I could switch it to having it read off the battery level, for example. That's fine, but I would prefer maybe to have the option to disable touch and hold completely because it doesn't seem all that useful to me, but your mileage may vary on that. Self-voice is something that I switched from medium to high, and this is that loopback of the microphone. So when you're on a call, you can hear yourself better if it's on high versus medium. Medium was a bit too muffled for me, but again, that's something you'll want to set for your own preferences. Now there's also a setting here for auto off, and what this will do is turn off the headphones automatically if they are not getting anything streamed to them for a period of time. By default, it is set to never, but you might want to leave that setting set to never because the headphones will shut themselves off if they don't detect any motion for 10 minutes. Bose on their forums say that these are very sensitive to motion, so they won't inadvertently shut down. But if you take them off your head, put them down on the table, they will turn off after 10 minutes of inactivity. And I do think these might fare better than the QC-35s will insofar as that power switch issue is concerned, because these do have an electronic switch versus the mechanical switch on the prior edition that, of course, is very prone to failure. So it looks like this is in some ways an acknowledgement of an issue they had on the prior generation of headphones that they were selling, because these do not have that mechanical on-off switch. And before we close out, I wanted to just show you the gesture controls on this, because this does not have buttons for doing playing and pausing and that sort of thing. So on the right-hand side of the headphones, you'll see a Bose logo. This is the capacitive area. So if I double tap here, I can start playing. If I double tap again, it will pause. I believe this is also the gesture to answer a phone call and hang it up, a double tap. You can also skip tracks by swiping to the right here, or you can go back by going to the left. You can also adjust the volume here by swiping up and down. I did find the volume control to be the most finicky, but it does seem to work, and it's in some ways a little bit easier than having to feel around for buttons. It's nice just to have a simple gesture that you can use to control everything. So overall, I'm okay with these, actually. I like the industrial design a lot better than the prior generation headset. And it's kind of funny that Bose is still selling both of these, because these really are, from a design standpoint, superior. They lack that faulty switch. They're more comfortable. I like the look a lot better. They just look and feel a lot more modern. You've got the USB-C connector here at the bottom. So those things are great. I do, though, for movies and TV shows, prefer the audio out of these. It's not a huge difference, but it's something that I noticed was missing when I started playing around with the 700s and watching some of the movies and TV shows that I typically watch on airplanes. I've always really liked the deep bass and the punchiness to these for movies and TV watching, not so much for these, although I think these might be a little better for music listening because of that. So it's really going to come down to your personal preferences. If you have a Bose store nearby, it might be worth going in and trying out both to see which will sound best with what you plan to listen to on it. But overall, these do feel like a nice improvement, and I really wish Bose would do right by the folks who bought these and have a bad switch. It looks like they corrected it with these new headphones, which will likely be the direction of the company here rolling forward, but I still have a very bad taste in my mouth from a poor customer service experience with Bose and these super high-end headphones that are really problematic for me right now. But overall, not a bad set here, and definitely worth considering if you want a really nice pair of noise-canceling headphones. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the Four Guys with Quarters podcast, Chris Allegretta, Tom Albrecht, Brian Parker, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/s.